All right, welcome into this edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast. Corey Moen, Evan Byrne. Evan, how we doing?
We're doing well. Playoffs are here. I'm excited.
Best time of the year, Evan. Best time of the year. It's 2 months of fun. Is what it really is. I compared this to yesterday. I compared it to kind of like a movie where it's like think of the regular season as a trailer because it kind of gives you a glimpse of what's going to happen a little bit. Like think of like every NBA team had a trailer. It just kind of shows like what's going to happen. Like I said, best time of the year. But before we get into playoff talk, we have a packed show for you guys today. So me and Evan are going to recap the final regular season game against the Toronto Raptors. Other topics we're going to talk about. So where's the? Oh, okay. Here we go. The other topic we're going to talk about is Giannis's comments about the MVP. He talked with TNT's Chris Haynes. Khris Middleton, Pat Connaughton, and Grayson Allen all practice fully on Thursday. So, we're just going to kind of discuss what we're going to expect from those three. The Giannis said huge Giannis topic today. So he said he was close to – so he was talking to the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel's Lori Nickel, and he said he was close to retiring in 2020 due to mental health and the pressure that went along with becoming a superstar. And then the final topic is we're going to preview the first-round series against the Miami Heat. So we're just going to get right into it. So Milwaukee had a game last Sunday against the Toronto Raptors. Me and Evan missed that game because we were both at the Brewer game. Really nothing to write home about. Toronto thoroughly won, 121-105. Milwaukee rested all five of their starters. Really only two core guys who played was Bobby Portis and Joe Ingles. So what did you see from Milwaukee's performance against Toronto?
Again, it was pretty You got the majority of the guys though were double digits. Leading scorer was Lindell off the bench, and then Bobby with 16 points. Pretty decent shooting for a lot of them. But again, nothing like extremely standout. I would say probably the best was Myers Leonard, 10 points, 12 rebounds, 3 of 4 shooting. Marjan 10, 6, and 4. So again, nothing extremely high, but again, kind of something you expect when most of the other guys are playing.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Because like you said, there was nothing to write home about. Kind of watching the highlights. Really, the only highlight was Thanasis' dunk, which again he'll do that sometimes.
He does that most times he plays somehow.
True. Lindell Wigginton, he had 17 points. Goodness gracious, Lindell Wigginton. I'm telling you, in a featured role, he finally gets to show off his talent because the clips I posted last week against the Grizzlies, he crossed up Jaren Jackson Jr. So I think Lindell Wigginton was kind of able to show off his talent. And a little bit of a note about that is he actually is from Canada. So both his parents were at the game. And, so that was good to see that he was able to basically play in front of his biggest fans. But yeah, like you said, other than that, nothing to write home about. I mean, Goran Dragic, Thanasis had 14 points apiece. And like it wouldn't be a game against the Raptors unless Gary Trent Jr. had another big game against us.
Yeah, they also went. Yeah, most of them also went double digits. Obviously, no one got in the 20s for the Bucks, but Gary Trent, Malachi Flynn got 20 and 23. So again, it wasn't a blowout, but again, it was kind of something we expected.
Yeah, that's very true. The one good note about this is Milwaukee did get 23 points off turnovers. So that So that's good there. And again, it gave a glimpse into the Raptors, I guess, featured playing game against the Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
Because really what we saw was more of the same. Is Toronto has trouble with turnovers, and they can't really shoot the basketball really outside of 1 to 2 guys.
Yep.
So it was really more of the same for them. And now obviously the season's over, and ours is because, with us being the 1 seed, it's been able to continue. And the other note obviously is 64 points in the paint. Well, when you don't have Brook Lopez in there, okay?
Yeah, when Bobby's your only guy, you're not going to get much. He's
Yeah,
a rebounder, but not a paint protector sometimes.
And no offense, okay? But Myers Leonard is probably one of the worst players I've seen trying to guard the paint. He's not a paint presence.
No.
Okay, I love Myers Leonard. Okay, he can shoot sometimes. He's very physical on screens. But God forbid, if he's in the game at any point in the series against the Heat, I would be extremely worried because that guy just open season in the paint. He can't guard it. So with that, the regular season is over, and we've obviously moved into the postseason against the Heat. But before we get to that, we do have some other topics. So Giannis last week talked to TNT's Chris Haynes. I do have an article I'm going to show, and I'm going to kind of just pull it up right now. He really talked about how he thinks he deserves at some moments to be MVP. So we're just going to pull it up right now, and I'm just going to kind of read from there. Let's see. So the whole antithesis of this was that he was saying how that they honored Giannis last Friday. They awarded him with the video tribute with a framed jersey recognizing his accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
They had Ray Allen actually show up to the game, which was pretty rare because Ray Allen really hasn't been in Milwaukee in many years. He was asked about his feelings about the MVP debate because obviously it's been between Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic, and this is what he had to say. He said, "Look, I would never try to create a narrative about the work I put in, and maybe that hurt me because I believe the last 5 years I've been the MVP." Antetokounmpo stayed firmly to Bleacher Report. Do I want a third MVP? Hell effing yeah, I want a third one. I'm extremely competitive. I try to make my team successful. That's what I get paid for. That's what I'm here for. I'm never going to be the one who discredits anybody else's work. That's not who I am as a person. And I will never beg for an MVP award that I believe I deserve. I'm very proud that I'm able to play at an MVP level because that means I'm making my team very successful. That's the goal. He had some more comments on it. He said, can I say this too? Well, let me backtrack for a second. So he said that the best player typically goes to the best team. That's who holds the edge. And he said, this. Can I say this? 2 of the MVPs I won in the last 5 years, those are my 2 worst seasons in that span. Go pull up the stats, but it doesn't even matter. I've tried to avoid the conversation at all costs. I don't even want to drive a narrative and have my kids seeing their father whining about an award because at the end of the day, it's all part of history. I don't want to win that way. And one more thing he said before we kind of go back is he was talking about like if there's been voter fatigue, people are just sick of him just being the MVP, and here's what he had to say about that. Maybe people are just tired of me. And look, I'll be tired of myself too. I'm not going to lie. Mariah Riddle-Springer, my significant other, is tired of me too. But at the end of the day, I will try to be consistent. I'll try to be as dominant as I can, and I'll try to help my team be successful for as many years as I can. and in as many years as my legs allow me to be. Eventually, they're going to be like, man, give this guy this MVP, this MVP because goddamn, he's still there. That's what's going to happen. All right, there's a lot there. What's your reaction to what he had to say?
It was kind of like a different side of Giannis that you don't really see, just because of like how his reaction was to just the debate in general. But I feel like I've talked with like my dad and like my brother on this a lot too with the MVP debate, and I feel like it always goes to just like the best scorer in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's what it like always looks like. Again, you have Embiid this year, or last year you had Jokic, or last 2 years you had Jokic with close to triple double, or just like again the triple doubles, which is primarily again an offensive type game. And a lot of people don't look at like the two sides of basketball, how you let your team or your teammates be and stuff like that. And I feel like a lot of it's just this guy was the best scorer. Let's give it to him. Doesn't really matter about the record. Doesn't matter about how his team helped or how he helped his team. So I can agree with him. I feel like it's kind of what like LeBron got. If the same thing goes to LeBron, LeBron should be the MVP every single year he's been in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And again, people can hate on it because people just decide to hate on LeBron. But I don't know. I feel like people have been saying it's like the LeBron treatment, but it's difficult because again, what he said that the 2 years that he did get it were statistically his worst years, and he's since the finals or 2020, 2021 season, those have been like some of his best years of basketball in his entire career.
Here's my thing on it, and you're right. And you're right. People do get voter fatigue because LeBron hasn't won an MVP since 2012, 2013.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't even know if for him it was voter fatigue. It was like, well, yeah, sure. Like LeBron.
That was like his best year.
Yeah, it's like, okay, like, yeah, sure, LeBron's good, but who else? And that's what people are, and that's what voters are looking for. Who else? It's like, okay, it's like compare this to football. People know how good Patrick Mahomes is, but who else can we give it to?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like people kind of overlook Giannis, and they're like, because they know how good Giannis is. So he's past the, like, oh, he's like really, really good. What voters are looking for is another story. All right, yeah, just the kid from Greece. Like, it wasn't a good year, but he's really dominant. Okay, we've never seen anything like it. Let's give him the MVP. And then even in the bubble, let's just give him the MVP. Okay. Unfortunately, and this is how it shouldn't be, but everybody just drives home that it's a narrative-based award. And they're right, it is. Everybody keeps talking about Joel Embiid. Okay. Not a lot of people have talked about Giannis for MVP. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying Joel Embiid hasn't been dominant, but you could really give it to any of these three, and like I think everybody would be happy.
Mm-hmm.
I think this has probably been one of Giannis's best years, is because he's on the best team. And again, normally that's who it goes to. But now it's like, well, Joel Embiid's kind of putting up the same numbers as Nikola Jokic, or Nikola Jokic putting up the same numbers. Yeah, it's just at this point now, it's probably going to go to Embiid. I understand those three are in the running, but it's not going to be a surprise who it goes to.
Yeah.
It's not like people are just going to choose Giannis at the last minute. So you go to Embiid because people have been talking about Embiid all year. Okay. And God forbid I do think he took a little subtle shot at Embiid because he's like, I'm not going to whine and beg for an MVP award. What do you think Joel Embiid's been doing? He's like, well, I deserve the MVP. That's exactly what he's been doing. So you know what? Fine. Give it to Joel Embiid and they can be out in the second round. Like, congratulations. Here's a cookie. Like that. This is what, like, again, do I think they could give it to Jokic too? Yeah, because, you watch Jokic play. He's probably one of the most unguardable big men in the NBA. I've watched these two guys. Okay. there's no stopping Nikola Jokic because he can hurt you either in the paint or passing the basketball. Joel Embiid, I'm telling you, Joel Embiid can put up the points, but sometimes he's not very efficient.
Mm-hmm. He can put it up, but it's 9 for 22 shooting.
Yeah.
12 for something like that.
And look, Giannis, Giannis, he kind of has some of those games sometimes too, where he'll put up the points, but he's not necessarily the most efficient shooting.
Mm-hmm.
I still think he's one of the more dominant players in the NBA. I do see similarities in Embiid's game and Giannis' game in terms of they can put it up, but they won't be it just won't be as efficient. Jokic, I'm telling you that he's pretty unguardable, I would say.
Yeah, when Brook went up against him, there were some possessions where he did get him, but there was a lot where it was just spin around. He's a bigger guy, but he's he's quick when he has the ball. Running in.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, even I still remember this, is that, the first play of the game against the Nuggets, they said double screen, and he ran around and he shot a jumper. I'm like, I've never seen a big man be able to do that. So look, I think Giannis, I think he finally had to get it off his chest because he's right. He does try to avoid the conversation at all costs because he never wants to say anything that could be perceived as taking a slight at either Jokic or Embiid. And look, he's just a hard worker. He just doesn't want to be he doesn't like campaign for his MVP. It's like if they vote me, they vote. I don't it is what it is. It's there's nothing at this point. There's nothing more I can do. So with all that, moving on to the next topic. And this is going to be kind of a quick one, but Khris Middleton, Grayson Allen, Pat Connaughton all practiced on Thursday. Middleton went out against the Bulls with, I guess, a re-aggravation of the knee that's been giving him trouble all year. Pat Connaughton and Grayson Allen both went out with ankle sprains.
Yeah, they went out with 3 games of each other. One went in one game and then the next, so on.
Boom, boom, boom. And again, I honestly think that is the scariest time of the year. Is that little stretch run of when you're so close to getting to the playoffs, but you're still going to play those final 3 games.
Yep.
That I feel like is when the most injuries happen. Because, you've been, and not saying these players' fault, it's such a grind. Okay. An 82 game season is such a grind. And, you're so close, but you've had players go out with 3 games left, 2 games left. Bucks know that as well as anybody because I think both of us remember in 2010 when the Bucks were about to go to the playoffs and they lost Andrew Bogut.
Andrew Bogut, goes down
right at an April game. So I guess what can you expect from these 3 guys in the series against the Heat?
I'm hoping that at least 2 of the 3 of them will be back by the first game. I remember where I read it, but it was another Bucks, channel posted about Brook Lopez saying that after one of their practices, they had one of the most intense practices since the All-Star break. So they're getting physical. They're playing at you could say a playoff level in practice. So I would assume that these guys are going to be back. They didn't look like serious injuries based off of how the x-rays and MRIs came back, but I'm hoping by the first or second game, at least 2 of the 3 are playing. And I think that will be helpful the most for them.
Yeah. And then kind of watching the video back, I didn't necessarily see where Grayson sprained his ankle.
His was also like Pat, where he came down and then just landed on a foot and then the ankle gives out.
Yeah, I don't know. When I watched the video back, I thought that Pat's looked worse than Grayson's did.
Yes, I did too.
Because and obviously I've never sprained an ankle, but kind of when you do it, when that ankle does a quick little twist. Oh boy, that's an ankle sprain.
And then they show it 13 times, and you just got to keep watching it.
So I mean, look, you can recover from an ankle sprain, but whatever Khris Middleton has, that for him, it's been a very tricky injury all year.
Yeah.
And I expect Coach Budenholzer is probably going to manage his minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying 15, but I do think he will be on a minutes restriction.
Yeah, he's not going to come out and play 30 right away.
No, because look, for him, it's been a really, really, it's been a very trying year for him. And I think this is something that, because he's been hurt practically the whole year, I guess. I mean, he had the wrist injury, and then he's had his knee kind of flare up on him and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Budenholzer said that it's going to be kind of a game to game thing for him at this point. So I mean, we'll see how much Khris Middleton can really play, because I don't really think it's fair to expect him to be like the 2021 playoffs Khris Middleton.
Yep, and it sucks, but yeah, it's hopefully he can be back if the Bucks continue to make it to play at like a higher competitive level, just to again get him back out there. Again, we don't expect him to turn into Michael Jordan, but it'll be nice to just kind of have a presence of him on the court to give us at least 10 points.
Yeah, and we do need him. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's the most important thing. Like, forget Grayson and Pat for a second. If Milwaukee doesn't have Khris Middleton, they won't win a championship. Okay, I don't think I'm unfair in stating that. Is that they need another shot maker.
Yep.
Okay? And I love me some Drew Holiday, but I gotta admit, he's disappeared in some of these playoff games sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And he's gotten it done on the defensive end, but offensively, he hasn't been as efficient in the postseason in some of these games.
And it'll be, I'm hoping they can beat obviously we'll get to the Heat, but I'm hoping that the Bucks beat the Heat at a reasonable setting too, just to kind of give them enough time to come back for the second round. If they make it past. So again, we'll see, but I'm assuming Grayson and Pat will be back before Khris at a reasonable playing level.
Yeah, true. Because like we said before, that both three of those guys practice fully. Grayson, Pat, with ankle sprains, it's kind of easy to recover from that a little quicker, more so than what Khris has, because it's like not anything really you can do. It's just a game to game thing. So yeah, we'll get into the series in just a little bit, but the next topic I want to talk about is of a serious nature. Giannis a few days ago says he try that again. So Giannis was talking to the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel's Lori Nickel and says he was close to retiring in 2020, obviously due to the pandemic. And the kind of the pressure that went along with becoming a superstar. So I actually have the article pulled up, and I'm going to read kind of what his thoughts were, what he was thinking in his head. So I'm going to pull that up right now. And due to this being a mental health topic, I'm gonna kind of read the whole thing, and then me and Ever are gonna react to it. And I want to note this too. He also told the front. This isn't just he was telling Lori Nickel that I was thinking about it, but I didn't tell anybody. He actually did tell the front office that he was thinking about retiring. And so here's what he said. He said, "Mental health, it's big for me," he told Nickel. "Everybody, no matter where I am, everybody is watching me. I don't think I have time to turn it off. Be myself. Kind of just be me. In 2020, I was ready to walk away from the game. I had this conversation, yes, with the front office. And, very normally, everybody was looking at me like I was crazy. You just signed the largest contract in NBA history, and you want to walk away from the game, all that money." And obviously, like I mentioned before, he was kind of talking about how he was feeling a lot of pressure just due to his rapid ascent into being a star.
Mm-hmm.
"I don't care about the money," he continued. I care about the joy. I'm a joyful person. My father didn't have nothing. He had us. He, as the richest person on earth, because he had his kids. He had the beautiful family. He had nothing. This to me doesn't mean nothing. And if I'm not in a good place, how can I leave my family? I can't leave my family. So, that's when I realized maybe I need to talk to somebody. I gave it a chance. I started talking with someone. Someone put me in a place, again, to appreciate all the things I have that comes with being who I am, to be okay with myself, to no matter what the outcome is of the game, understand that I can't control that. I can only control my effort, how hard I work, how I make people feel around me, how I try to purposefully there it is. How I try to hopefully inspire people from what I do. Then I started watching a lot of documentaries of Michael Phelps, Naomi Osaka. I watched Breaking Point, and then I see a lot of people are dealing with this. And then from that he started the Charles Antetokounmpo Foundation to honor his late father. And their mission is to obviously help refugees and immigrants with support to improve living conditions and open pathways for self-sufficiency to help the youth. All this other stuff. And kind of the last topic thing he had about it is about mental health in general is I feel like a lot of people deal with it, but they're not willing to talk about it, he said. They're not willing to improve because the stigma is behind it. The moment I started talking about it, I improved as a basketball player because I am okay with the outcome. I am okay with myself. I can leave everything on the court and go back to my family. I talked to Kevin Lund and told him how he inspired me to open up and help me to kind of better myself. And he was literally tearing up when I was telling him that. He never imagined he would be the kind of help. Yeah, he never imagined he would be the one to kind of help me figure out a way to cope with all this. And then I try to help as many people as I can.
See, it's a hard topic. Yeah, it's a hard topic just because of he mentioned pressure. Yeah. Again, you have the entire world watching you. Again, you have fans in the United States, you have fans in Europe, you have fans, and it's all worldwide, and everywhere he goes, he could be recognized. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I would, if being like a professional athlete, I think would be the hardest thing is you're no longer just able to just kind of go out and be you without people watching you. You can go out to eat, people are watching you. You can go grocery shopping, people are watching you. Again, Giannis used to drive up to where I live and for shopping, and again, you got this 6'11" tall dude that's not a lot of tall people in my area, and it's people are going to notice you, and I think it's important that he kind of talked about it and talked it out. And I think one of the biggest things, like when he mentioned retirement, I think I wasn't like worried about like oh great, now the Bucks are going to suck because Giannis just retired. It was the more of the safety standpoint, I think, for him itself, outside of like the success of the team. It was more of like the health and safety of him. So again, it's a interesting topic just because of how, especially since the bubble, and just the pandemic in general, I think a lot of people are mentally unstable just because of how different life is. People who are watching, if you're ever interested in watching, I recommend Thanasis's podcast, Thanalysis. He did an episode with DJ Shauna, the Bucks in-game DJ host, and she talked about like her time at the bubble and how different it was, and talked about basically what it was like being in Orlando for so long. And I think it's an interesting one just because she gives like her standpoint outside of the players. But yeah, it's again, it's nice that he's still here, knowing that he was able to kind of learn how to not work it out, like, but learn how to handle it a lot in a healthier way, to kind of keep him, again, doing what he loves and being able to, again, communicate with others.
I think what Giannis was really alluding to, and you kind of allude to this, is that he wanted to go back to the life he had before.
Yes.
Because you talked about the fact that, well, he was a professional athlete and they get recognized right away. Nobody knew who Giannis was really until he had this like rapid descent. Like he could like walk around and nobody would like recognize it. Nobody would know him. I mean, shoot, there was a story going around that he was when he was a rookie, he was sitting there at the state fair and nobody went up to him. And he was able to live that life and he was able to just kind of go out and do what he wanted to do. Now you get like a million people like waiting in line to get his autograph or waiting in line to get a jersey with his name on the Brewers shirt. This was a very heavy topic. And I believe that he would have done all of these things. I believed that if he didn't talk with like a therapist about this, he would have walked away from the game.
Oh, I 100% agree.
And you know what? I would have been fine with it. COVID was a challenging time for everyone. A lot of people lost loved ones, friends, grandmothers. I mean, grandparents. Just everybody lost someone at one point or another in COVID. It was a challenging place, but it was especially a challenging place for someone like Giannis. In the bubble, you know, he's a huge family guy. And, you know, with family time just kind of being restricted and him having to sit in this little bubble in Orlando for 2 or 3 months at a time, that couldn't have been easy for him. Okay. And I don't think it was easy for a lot of athletes. And look, I think it was more than, oh, well, I didn't like my time in the bubble. I generally just don't think like he's a guy who's motivated by money. I think he, you know, wants to spend more time with his family, which is why I can honestly see him like, I don't know. I can honestly see him retiring early, if I'm being honest. Because does he love basketball? Yeah, he this is something he really wants to do. But at the same time, I don't know if I can see him going out like Kobe Bryant, where he plays till he's in his 40s. I just don't know if I can see that. I think there's a lot of things he wants to do with his family. I do think he probably wants to win like a couple more rings in Milwaukee, but I just don't know if I could see him being like a basketball is like Iron Man, where he plays till he's like 40 or 41, or like even Kobe retired at 37, 38. I don't know if I could see that for him. He's still pretty young. I think 27, 28.
Yeah, 28, I think.
Yeah, so, you know, this is something that I believe he would have done. I'm glad he opened up about it because, you know, there is still that stigma that goes around with mental health. And it's good that he talked to Kevin Love because Kevin Love wrote an op-ed piece in the Players Tribune about like his struggles with mental health. And look, it was important for me to read the whole thing because this at the forefront will always be an important topic. It should be number one in the US every day. So heavy stuff, Evan. Shout out Giannis for sharing what he was going through during that particular time period. So,
but yeah, everyone loves him in Milwaukee, so it's nice that he can have a support community.
Exactly, he's got a good support system. Milwaukee, like there's never been a bad word about Giannis. Nobody has a bad word to say about him, and I'm just glad that he shared that with all of us, and that he knows that you know, if he ever needs it, he's got a good support community back in Milwaukee, like you just mentioned. All right, final topic of the day: the Milwaukee Bucks are playing the Miami Heat. Miami beat Chicago 102-91 in last night's play-in game in Miami. And now Milwaukee has, I guess, another date with Miami in the playoffs. Obviously, Milwaukee has faced Miami in the 2021 playoffs in the first round and in the 2020 Eastern Conference semifinals.
Yes.
So, Evan, what are your kind of like, I guess, matchup things that you're going to be looking for in this series against the Heat?
I think the biggest thing is going to be Jimmy Butler.
Yep.
Who's going to guard him? Who's going to be able to do it well? Obviously, there's going to be times where Jimmy Butler's just going to have a game. Happens every time in the playoffs. Another thing is going to be the paint. Guarding the paint. Bam Adebayo, he's quick. So I feel like they put Brook Lopez on him, and I don't really like when they do that because Bam Adebayo is just so much faster.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys are so much faster than Brook. So I think it'll be the big things I'm looking for is matchups, guarding the paint, and then again performance from some of our guys who are coming back from injury, of how well they're going to be able to come back and be able to compete at the high level again.
You're right about the paint. Bam Adebayo provides a bit of a matchup nightmare for Brook Lopez because he's a big who can shoot, and he has that little floater.
Yep.
Which is obviously defending that as Brook Lopez's weakness. But for the Milwaukee's 3-point defense against Miami, I'll be interested to kind of see that because Miami had a guy by the name of Max Strus pop off for like 28 points yesterday against Chicago. So guarding the 3-point line, that'll be kind of my key because they got 3-point shooters all around. Not as much Duncan Robinson anymore. I mean, he can still fill it up, but he just hasn't had much of a starring role in the Heat in I guess the past year.
Since he had that one good year and they paid him a lot.
So they got Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, and then obviously Tyler Hero.
Yeah.
Those are three guys that Milwaukee really has to pay attention to. I'm not worried about Kyle Lowry anymore. Okay. At this point now, he's a meme for having, you've seen the memes on Twitter. I don't think I need to share that with you. But it'll be an interesting matchup. I mean, it's one of those things where you always have to worry about Miami because look, they beat Milwaukee before in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's really just going to be out-coached because Eric Spoelstra is, again, one of the top coaches in the league and always will be no matter the team that he has.
Yeah, and Coach Budenholzer, sometimes playoff bud just comes out and you don't know what rotations he's going to use. I mean, shoot, he can use like I don't know, like Goran Dragic over Javon Carter again. Which, again, I'm going to feel bad for Javon Carter, but I think I believe it's kind of a similar matchup to 2021 because relatively speaking, Miami still has the same guys. I mean, outside of, I guess, the point guard position, but in that 2021 series, they still had Jimmy Butler, they still had Bam, they still had Tyler Hero, and Milwaukee, and Miami's been like kind of a battered team all year. They've dealt with a lot of injuries. And I don't know, I don't think they're as good defensively as they used to be. They just don't have those like bigger wings, a la like when they had Jay Crowder. But I still think it'll be a fun. I guess it'll be like a fun matchup. I still have Milwaukee winning the series.
Yeah,
but I still think this just being the Heat culture and all this other stuff. I still think it'll be a fun series.
Yep. So the head-to-head for the season was 2-2, and I know the two that they lost, Giannis didn't play. Those are those two back-to-back games earlier. Yeah. I have Bucks in 5. I think that's my final prediction.
Bucks in 5. I'm gonna agree with you. Actually, I'm gonna go Bucks in 5 too, because I do think that Jimmy Butler will steal one at home in Miami.
There's always the. I don't want to say a sweep, but I don't think it'll go to 6.
No, and if you remember from the last time they played Miami, they swept them out of the first round.
Yep.
Obviously, everything was different because there were no fans. So, 2021 season was a little weird. I don't think that's going to happen this time around. More fans in the building, which means that, it's just going to be a little more electric because I do think that fans can win you a playoff game.
Yes, agreed.
And, Milwaukee having their fans outside the Deer District, it is going to be electric in there. All right, Evan, can you say it right now? Are you going to any playoff games that you know of?
Not that I know of yet. I'm gonna try to go to one. I go to one, I think, almost every year. I didn't go to one the championship year, but I try to go to at least one. So I'm hoping I might have. I'm in a financial situation where I want to go, but can I go? I'm gonna try. I want to go to at least the first series where maybe it's not as much, but we'll see. I'm working the Brewers, so I might be missing a couple games where I got to go home, watch it. I can't. Those nights are going to be, no one texts me. I'm going to turn off all Bleacher Report, NBA notifications. I'm going to go home and I'm going to watch the game as if I know nothing. That's how I'm going into it. So.
All right. And here's the other thing too, is me and Evan do text each other. And so he's telling me right here, right now, don't text me. I don't want to know anything about the game. I didn't watch it.
I'll be cheering on the Brewers, and then I'm going to drive home, and I'm going to watch the game at like 11 o'clock at night.
Just so you know, Evan's a teacher, so he's got to.
We got a busy end of the school year.
That whole lesson. He's going to be on through that whole lesson. So yeah, and here's the other thing too. In regards to this podcast, kind of want to tell you guys about it, is that when Evan's not working for the Brewers, hopefully, if he can, we'll kind of talk about this after, is that hopefully he can, we can kind of recap the games right after they happen. Obviously, won't be able to do every single game after it happens, but hopefully most of them, I would say. I think that's it for me. Evan, you got anything else? I
don't. Again, Bucks play tomorrow. First game of the series. Obviously, all the play-in games are done, so I don't know if there are games tonight. There might be, but I just know the Bucks got home game tomorrow against the Heat. Again, hopefully they can take the 2 at home right away and then go into Miami up 2-0, and we'll see how everything goes. But again, I got Bucks in 5 for this series. It'll be a good series, though. I think every single series in the NBA playoffs will be a good one.
Yeah, it's kind of like a. I also compared the NBA playoffs this year to like think of it like a rock paper scissors thing, but except all the NBA teams are holding rocks.
Yes,
it's like nobody knows who's going to win.
Yeah,
the Nuggets are not getting any love from everybody in the Western Conference.
Yeah, that's the exciting part, is you never know what's going to happen. Expect the unexpected.
True. So, all right. Thank you guys for tuning in. This has been this edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast, and hopefully we'll see you guys tomorrow. So,
yes.